Okay, hello everybody. So for this month's Fearless Fridays, I'm here with Kristyn Caetano, who is calling in from San Diego, sunny San Diego, although I'm in sunny Stockholm, so it's not so bad. So Kristyn, I'd love to hear, first of all, a little bit about what you were doing before and what you're doing now.
Oh, thank you so much for the invitation to be here. I'm just really happy to spend this time with you. Well, let me start with where I am now, and I can tell you where I was. So I am an intuitive business coach and lifestyle strategist. So I help coaches and healers and visionary entrepreneurs build a thriving business so they can have more freedom, more prosperity, and also go out and do good things in the world. I'm also a travel junkie, and so I weave that into my work in that I help people really design a lifestyle and learn how to travel more affordably and to unique off the beaten track places. So that's where I am now. You know, the other thing I'll say is that I do have a background of doing a lot of healing work. And so that I came through that path. So now I combine straight up practical business strategy with spiritual and healing tools and lots of love. And so that integration is really a holistic and integrated approach to building a conscious, soulful business. So that's where I am now. And then where I came from is, you know, I think at the root of everything I've done has always been about health and healing. I had a 20+ year career in public health, specifically in women's health. I used to manage nonprofit health clinics and do a bunch of health-related community-based stuff. And so on the side of my full-time jobs, I was always doing the healing work. And I have a lot of certifications. I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm certified in several different kinds of energy work, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So I won't list the litany of that, but, you know, I guess I'll stop there, but I can kind of tell you, you know, how I made that transition, if that's next. It's sort of naturally leading that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love what you said, and clearly you're in a good place from what I can hear in terms of really knowing what you're doing, who you're serving, and so on, which is fantastic. And it's not totally unlike what I do, to be honest, both using my marketing and business background, not so much with spirituality and healing, but certainly the broader kind of life coaching and mindset piece. So I think it's a really strong combination, definitely.
Absolutely. And yeah, thanks for saying that. You know, yes, I'm in a good place, but you know, as you know, in the entrepreneur journey is sort of a never-ending learning quest, right? And that's one of the things that I actually love about entrepreneurship, and is that we get to keep growing and learning. You know, sometimes it's challenging, but sometimes it's amazing. So
yes, we'll get into both of those, both the amazing and the challenging. But first, I'd love to go back to when you decided to actually take the leap, really. I guess either initially crafting that, as you said, alongside your job, and then also then fully going into it after that.
Yeah, I'd love to share that. So as I mentioned, you know, always had jobs, and on the side was always doing some kind of healing work. I've also had other businesses. I had an organic tea business, on and on. So, you know, I would say that probably my whole adult life, I was sort of always on this quest of like really trying to find my right aligned work in the world, and knowing that I wasn't quite in it, even though there were pieces of what I was doing that was right. And so, you know, a bunch of certifications later, I finally, you know, arrived at being in my early 40s. And I was in a very damaging, toxic, miserable job, which I won't even go into the details, but let's just say it was bad. And I was a bit stuck because, you know, in my public health career, I was like done with that career, and there weren't any lateral or promote. There was nowhere to go in that field. And so I was in my early 40s. And I had done my coaching and stuff on the side, you know, but I had never really said, I'm going to do this thing. And so I was in my early 40s. I was driving to this horrible job every day in treacherous commute. And every day I would either be crying in my car, or sick to my stomach, or angry. And I was like, I don't even recognize myself. This is not me. And like I said, it wasn't like, oh, just go get another job. I was kind of like, there wasn't any other conventional situation that I was just done, And so I finally was like, you know what? I got to do this thing for real. So what I did is I set up a brick and mortars side business, combining my hypnotherapy and life coaching, basically. And even though I knew I wanted to do online stuff, but I was just throwing everything at it. I was like, I'm going to do online and person and in person and maintain a full-time job, which isn't very practical, by the way. But anyway, so I rented office space. I had clients. I was rushing to go see clients after the cubicle job, in traffic. And after a while, I realized three things. I was like, you know what? This business model is never going to liberate me from my day job. So I better figure something else out. The other thing I realized was, I really like to work with people in this deeper, longer term way. And the third thing I realized was like, I love doing this inner work, but something's missing. I spent so much money on online courses and DIY trying to figure it out. Like really, I was asking my mother, everybody, like, why am I stuck? I was stuck because I knew something wasn't right. And I had a lot of knowledge. I'm very knowledgeable about entrepreneurship and business and everything, but I just couldn't. It was, when you're stuck, you can't see your own thing. I finally hired a business coach who changed my life pretty much immediately, helped me get a giant breakthrough, which was that I actually loved the business coaching, the practical side and the teaching. So then that's when I pivoted and sort of combined those. And this coach actually helped me to kind of remove some blinders and see. I knew about some other business models, but I didn't think that I could do them for whatever limiting belief reasons. And so anyway, after that, I was like, oh, what I did is I chose to build my path is a little slower than some people. I didn't just jump ship and run to the hills and build my business. I actually built it slowly and steadily on the side. And I slowly reduced my job. I went from 5 days to 4 days to 3 days. And I finally quit at the age of 44. And I've never looked back. I'm never going back, ever. And that was, it took a lot of inner work to get there. As we were mentioning, the entrepreneur journey is kind of, it's circuitous sometimes. And, I had so much knowledge, but I had to do that inner work because I wasn't young. I have a mortgage. I don't have a sugar daddy, whatever, I had to do that inner work to get to the place where I could take that leap. And I'm so glad I did.
For what it's worth, you keep talking about this, like your early 40s being a long time ago. You look incredibly young, so I can't imagine you still are young. So
yeah, no, I'm 45 now, so I get that a lot. I guess it's the genetics. I don't know.
Yes, lucky there. But we still have hopefully many years to come, even at the grand old age of 45. I think you're
Absolutely.
Still, certainly these days we're probably going to be working until our 80s. So don't worry, you've got half your life to go at least. So.
For sure. But the great thing is that we're actually doing work that we love now.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Well, before we get into that then, let's double click a little bit on the challenges you were saying there. So it sounds like a big part of it was the mindset, and also you got yourself into actually a business model that wasn't right for you and you were doing way too much. So can you talk a little bit more about those challenges you came up against?
Yeah, absolutely. I have this phrase that I believe that business can be our medicine. So, building a conscious business is such an inside job, as I mentioned. And what I mean by business as medicine is like, you're going to be faced with all your stuff, all your limiting beliefs, all your childhood wounds, whatever. And so I almost think of building a business as almost like a healing modality in itself. And so I would say for my challenges, I was just incredibly fearful, just terrified about that stability piece, like, am I going to be able to eat kind of thing, And it's really, that's such that basic human, like, lizard brain fear, right? And I think we all have it, So I always have done a lot of, I've always gotten support from different coaches, therapists, spiritual healers to help kind of move through those blocks and things. And to be honest, it took my path was, like I said, slower than some of the other people. It took me several years to work through that incredible fear. On the practical level, I set myself up because I saved a certain amount of money to have a cushion. I did a certain amount. I built my business to a certain place before I took the leap. But definitely that inner journey is ongoing, right? Mm-hmm. Because once you get to one level, then there's always the next level that you of limiting belief or fears that you need to unravel. So all I can say about that is just you have to keep doing your inner work all the time in order to do this. And then the other piece was just more in a more tangible level. Like, so I, I had to shift some structures in my business model. And as I mentioned, I knew there were other models. I knew that other coaches were charging higher prices than I wasn't, but I had this idea. I thought I have to be more famous before I can raise my prices. And it was just a complete, it never occurred to me that I could actually do that. So some of these things are the things that my business coach helped me to reframe. Another challenge was just, I never thought I had money mindset's horrible. I was like, okay, yes, I agree. I should accept some compensation for this exchange, right? But I did unravel that indeed I had some money blocks, one of which was a deeply subconscious, ancestral scarcity belief, and it came from my parents and their parents before them. And the day that I saw that, it was very visceral. I was like, oh, I actually do have some money wounds to heal. So those are just a couple of examples of the things that I've had to really work through and kind of overcome.
Yeah. But those are actually quite common, I think. And what I find so fascinating, just listening to you, if I step out of myself for a moment, I realize I wouldn't, and I think you said you were involved in kind of healing all your life and so, and these are kind of concepts maybe you thought about. For me, if I go back to, before 2013, which is when I quit my job, and I did go quite sudden. So it did take me also a bit of time to sort of work out what I wanted to do. But I don't think I had ever heard of blocks, mindset, visualization, maybe very vaguely, all this stuff, the limiting beliefs and so on, that I've now spent years working through, and it's made such a difference. But I had no idea that those things existed. It wasn't even on my radar. And I have to admit, to be honest, coaching, even though it was kind of part of what we did in the corporate world, we had some coach training in terms of the GROW model and so on, I would never have considered hiring a coach. So I guess I'm a bit curious, how did you discover this, and how did you, at that moment in particular, work out that, I need a coach, and then find that person who really helps you and transforms your business and life?
Yeah, I love that question. So I actually, I was an early adopter of coaching. I actually took my first coaching certification in 2007.
Okay.
I think I'm a person, as you mentioned, I've kind of always been involved in personal development and healing. So I just sort of had that orientation of investing in support. But, I'll tell you, I definitely, I wish I had hired my business coach sooner. And I think that how I arrived at that place of I need a coach was, number one, I had been in sort of this entrepreneur world for 4 or 5 years already, going to conferences and reading books and doing all the DIY courses, tons, right? And so again, it's kind of that culture of if you want to be a coach, you also need to be coached so that you can keep becoming a better coach and serve your clients better. So that sort of orientation was already in place. But for me, I also had that fear and scarcity thing. And, so remember I said I was I had this practice and I was like, this is not going to work. How am I going to get out of this terrible, hideous job? And this is I'm going to die if I don't get out of this job. Kind of that sort of, the cost of staying was far more painful than the cost of the unknown and the fear of that. So the tipping point, I had already done so many things to try to get unstuck and figure out. And I had spent money on so many other courses and asked everybody I ever knew, I was just stuck. And I was like, I need help because I'm going to die if I don't change this. And so I was, I was very synchronistic. I believe in timing and energetics. I was at an event and this person was actually got called up on the stage, and my friend was there. She knew I was looking for a coach. I couldn't find the right one. And she was like, what about that guy who was on stage? And I was like, yeah, maybe. The very next break, 300 people in the room. Who sits next to me in the empty seat is this guy. I'm like, beep, 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 bing, bing, bing. And then, it was just time.
Love it.
I wasn't willing to stay where I was. The pain had gotten too great. And it was scary. I'll tell you one more thing. And I was freaking terrified because this is a high-end coach. So I invested at a higher level than I had ever invested in anything before, besides like a master's degree, but that's totally different. So I was like, the day that I had to, we had the call and I woke up, I was like, my heart was pounding. I was like, I think I'm going to hire this guy, but oh my God. I'll add one more piece here just for people who are in this maybe space for themselves. I didn't have the money. I found a way to borrow the money. I was freaking terrified, but I took that, I decided to hedge my bets on myself and make this investment. And like I said, the rest is history. Never regret a penny. I would never be where I am now if I hadn't made that big investment in myself.
I love that, and that investor mindset over the scarcity mindset. I think it's a shame in a way, and it's totally natural, but the fact that we have to wait until we get to that tipping point, that the pain is so great, that we've tried so many things, wasted so much time, energy and money, that we only then realise that, that we need help. I've certainly always invested in myself and in learning, but it's always been course. I think that's our natural tendency, is sort of our Western view of, another university degree, a course of facts and
I can do it.
Exactly. Whereas the coaching, funnily enough, and some people will say, I'd never pay for a coach. It's like, I need like the actual mentorship or training. I'm like, well, okay, you can easily get that online, to be honest. It really is the other stuff that we're talking about, that inner work and mindset and all those pieces that's so much more transformative.
And it is the combination, because even though I was so knowledgeable and I'd done so many courses and things, my coach still introduced new business strategies and models that, along with helping me break through the fears and things. So it really was a powerful combination, So I don't want people to think like you don't get any actual systems or strategies or whatever, or training with a coach. I mean, it depends on the coach, of course. But for me, I got both.
Yeah, I think
that's what I do. That's what I do.
Well, exactly. And me too. And I think it's a thorny issue that probably we shouldn't get into here. I mean, I know from my coach training, pure coaching was very much, don't give solutions, and you're not really actually giving any kind of... And mine is also a blend of consulting, mentorship, because that's what I have. And the other so-called business coaches only do sort of the teaching part. So, I mean, it's just semantics, I suppose. But I guess for me, the lesson from this is, as you said, the sort of universe having that moment, both when you were ready for it and then the ideal person. And it's happened to me too. Like my coach now, I heard her on a podcast, someone recommended her in a Facebook group, and I saw a web. It was just kind of suddenly also a bit more than I had intended to invest, but I went for it. And okay, that just means I need to get more clients and so on, and then that just kind of spurs you on. So some really good insights there. And where else did you get support then? You had the business coach, you did lots of inner work, it sounds like. You had your own sort of genetic disposition, I guess, but where else did you get support?
Where else did I get support? Well, as I mentioned, I do work with different intuitive and spiritual mentors, and kind of personal healing, different modalities in terms of like, embodiment work or whatever, basically, different kinds of practitioners or modalities that help me with body, mind, spirit. So that's one place that I kind of have a few different sources that I go to for. But the other place that I get support, which is imperative, is, is that we can't do this alone. And so to be able to form relationships and friendships and supportive collaborations with fellow entrepreneurs and people in my mastermind community has been an absolute game changer. And that's actually something I'm looking to build more of this year, because I'll tell you, I've suffered from what I call the independent woman syndrome, which is like, like my whole life I haven't been good at receiving help and think I can do everything myself. Like I know how to change the oil in my car and snake a drain, but I don't want to do that anymore. And so it's really, it's still an edge for me to actually ask for and receive help and from peers or even people who are a little ahead of me or whatever that might be. But we absolutely can't do it alone. So I encourage everyone to find mastermind buddies, whatever, people who believe in you, all the above.
Yeah, absolutely. And so a lot of people have said actually that an online group has been as good, as a physical face-to-face one. Certainly some people aren't necessarily in a place, or they might be nomadic and so on and can't sort of meet face-to-face. I had a trusted sort of friend / coachee, actually. We very much supported each other over the last few years. And yeah, the mastermind concept now is really growing, isn't it? Such a powerful thing to sort of connect with people who ideally can help each other along too. So it's different to the coach and coachee, but
right.
building.
And you can actually help, these relationships, people actually can help you cross promote and become affiliate partners and joint venture partners. And that's actually, well, there's that personal support and like cheerleading, but then there's also the other level of like, well, actually this can amplify your business as well. This forming strategic and mutually supportive win-win partnerships.
Yeah, so true. I get the feeling that, some of these quite sort of, I don't know what the word should be that's not too derogatory, but some of these very high ticket kind of flashy type of coaches, I think that is the main benefit people get from those programs, is actually that you're sort of hobnobbing with these very sort of rich millionaire types. And so I think that's almost more than, than necessarily the coaching and the tools and things.
Yeah, it's absolutely a perk. It's an important perk that can absolutely move your business forward. Now, for me personally, I felt with that coach that I hired, I kind of got all three. I got the personal, I got the tangible, and I got incredible relationships for the mastermind that was part of that agreement, So yeah, but you know what? There's good coaches and bad coaches. There's everything out there. So you really have to, there's something about that synergy, with the synergy and sort of the rapport. And that actually is a valuable component that goes into the mix when you're choosing a coach as well.
Well, the great thing now is that you can do what we're doing. You can watch people on Facebook Live, you can read their blogs, you can see them, engage with them. So you really know them. By the time, hopefully, people come on the phone with me, they already know they want to work with me. Whereas, in the past, you might just have seen sort of some copy on a website or something, or a brochure in the good old days.
Right.
So that's
really
old
great, school.
Yeah, very
brochure.
old school.
Who's got those anymore?
I know. I wrote an article about the best practice of designing a flyer a few weeks ago. I was like, who uses these things? But that's it's okay. They are quite useful for some businesses, actually.
For local.
Yes, exactly. And let's get to the amazing bit that you teased at the beginning. So what do you love most? What's the best part of your work and lifestyle now?
Oh, wow. I think the best part of my work is that I know that I'm genuinely helping people move the needle on their dreams and creating their fullest expression in the world. I really believe that there's, it's like there's so many people that are unhappy in their desk jobs, and so many people that are always like trying to find their like purpose or whatever. That's kind of a buzzword, but like there's a reason for that. And so I believe that, we do have a purpose, so to speak, just to say it simply, and that there is kind of an unhappiness and dissatisfaction that happens when you're not in your right aligned, joyful work. So my joy is to actually help all the coaches and healers and guides and mentors to rise up, to be able to actually, create a structure that supports them financially, consistently and well, and actually also allows them to creatively express themselves and do good in the world. I mean, what's better than that? Who doesn't want that, And so I love that. I really have joy in that. I'm very like co-creative I push my sleeves up, and we actually, build stuff out together. It's not just talking, the way that I would. So I get a lot of joy out of that, seeing those wins and that co-creative process. I also get a lot of joy out of the fact that I get to sleep in. I'm just being totally honest, because I am not a morning person. Oh, those days when I had to wake up at the crack of dawn and like drive in treacherous traffic forever to get to a horrible soul-sucking desk job. I mean, I don't schedule any clients generally before 10 a.m. And I love it. I'm just like, I feel healthier. I'm carve out time for my yoga and my self-care. It's just, it's really a joy. It's a joy. It's not perfect. There's good days and bad days, of course. but I feel so blessed and fortunate that I had the courage to design a different kind of life, to live life differently. And that's where a lot of people get stuck in that fear and never make it, you know? So my joy is helping them get there.
Oh, beautiful. I have to say, well, I don't know, I rebelled against that sort of early morning alarm clock for quite a long time, and I don't have client calls until the afternoon. But these days I do wake up literally without an alarm at 7, get up and go to work. So I've sort of gone back and forth there with the pendulum, but definitely the freedom of being able to, actually this morning I went for a long run, and it was so nice to be able to take that time, isn't it, when everyone else is stuck in the office and so on. So some pretty good perks there, definitely. Great, and you've already shared quite a bit of advice, really, but if you could choose one piece of advice you'd like to share with someone maybe who's, well, either at that tipping point or even maybe before that tipping point, how do you even go about sort of anticipating that, I guess, is one question. But any advice you want to share from your side?
How do you go about anticipating what choice to make to help yourself?
Well, I think I'm sorry, I just gave you 3 questions in one, but I think I'm just curious about, as we said, there is that point when the pain gets too much, and I think at that point you do, in the end, either you burn out or you sort of have to take that leap, or you find a coach or whatever. But I mean, I guess my initial question there that I was trying to formulate not so articulately was, is there a way, do you think, that you could have known before you get to that point? Are there any signs that people can think of, or steps they can take before they get to the tipping point when they're going to be kind of forced to make a move, I guess?
Yeah, boy, I wish I got there sooner. Yeah, I love that question. When you first started talking, I had another answer, but now I've just different ones come in. And so this might be a little esoteric, but I'm just going to put it out there. So my advice when you're in that path of you're trying to figure out, and you don't want to get to that tipping point, and where there's so much information, here's my advice is, when you're faced with decisions, or should I go down this path? Should I go down this path? Or I don't know exactly what I'm doing for my business, whatever it is, whatever that indecision or uncertainty or whatever it is. The thing is, if you remain stuck in limbo land, it's not only painful, but you never get anywhere. You spin your wheels. So we know that, action begets clarity. But what I wanted to share is really even to decide which sort of unknown action should I take that will hopefully get to the clarity. I really advise people to make decisions to really actually go inside. Close your eyes. If you're should I do A or B? Close your eyes. Imagine yourself doing A. Does it feel heavy? Does it feel buoyant? I mean, yes, your monkey mind is going to be scared regardless, but just drop into your body and get out of your head and into your body, and just ask, be curious, be does this feel you? And then, okay, choice B. When I think about doing choice B, does it feel meh, or does it feel ooh, curious? So I don't know if that's a little too out there, but it actually works.
No, it's not out there. And I was actually thinking that's super, super practical. And it really is that simple. Basically, do you want to stay or do you want to make a change? And I think people get caught up in, as you said, that, oh my goodness, how am I going to put food on the table, and I have a mortgage and the children and so on, and what else would I possibly do? And that's never going to work because, and you get caught up in the how before you've even made that decision, yes or no. If you decide to stay, I think that's great, good for you, and just then at least,
but
that
at least you have
burden
the
is
relief
gone.
Of,
exactly.
Right, not in limbo land.
Intentionally staying, and then just making the most of that situation and enjoying your life. I think the worst is always people who deep down know they want to leave and don't change. So I think that's amazing advice, not esoteric at all, just really feel. And then once you've made that clear decision, then you can, get the help you need, you can work out the finances, you can set a deadline that's 5 years in advance. No one's saying, as you said, that you need to quit tomorrow. So no, I love that.
Yeah, put in structure. And I'll just add, one more thing is there's never a sure thing. You might be okay, this feels more buoyant, so I'm going to move in this direction of this next little action step. But I used to want to know for sure it was going to work out before I took the step, but it doesn't work that way. That's why you just lean into, what feels heavy, discard it and lean into it. But know that this is an ever unfolding journey, and you're not going to know for sure. You're only going to know the next step right in front of you, and you're going to discover what happens. That's it.
I love that, and being curious. As you said, funnily enough, my coach has been saying that recently on her lives and her podcast about that people wanting to get the results before they've invested. It's like sort of driving San Diego to LA, whatever. I think that's probably not very far, but let's say to New York, and before putting the gas in the tank, right? That's the description she was giving, and I thought, oh, okay, you do need to invest in your business before it's going to result in anything. Invest in yourself, not necessarily money and so on, but just the time and effort and so on. So as you said, wanting to, nobody can tell you the outcome, because the whole point is you are creating now your own path and so on. So you need a little bit of faith, a little bit of leaning in, maybe, and
absolutely. And if we can have some fun along the way in the discovery and curiosity process, then it helps a little, I think. But absolutely, you have to let go of that kind of control thing, because it ain't gonna work. It's not going to work.
Ain't going to work. Love it. No, that's really good advice. Thank you so much. Well, thank you. Oh gosh, I really love talking to you. It's so great to hear both your insights as sort of an expert and a business coach and so on, and also your personal journey. So where can people find you if they want to find you on the internet and learn more, which I'm sure they will want to?
Yeah, yes, thank you so much. I would love for people to connect with me. So my website is elixifyyourlife.com, which is not the easiest, I know, but it's like elixir, but elixify your life.
I'll put it in the notes so people can.
Yeah. That was like the first website I got back when I was just doing healing work. Anyway, and then I would love, you can find me. I'm on Facebook. I have a Facebook group. If you would like to join, it's free. It's for coaches and healers building their business and supporting each other. I'm on. I don't do Twitter much, but Instagram, Facebook, and then my website are the three main places.
And just, I think you mentioned a little bit, but the coaches and healers you're working with, at what stage of their business are they? Are they people sort of just starting out, or are they already a little bit established?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So I work with three kinds of people. One, the people who are starting from scratch. They're like, I think I want to be a coach. So, I do a lot of that foundational business building, putting in the structures and getting the clarity and then building from there. So the people who are like brand new. The second kind of person I work with is that coach or healer who's been doing this for perhaps a long time, but they're completely in the trading time for dollars model of like they've been a massage therapist for 15 years and they're charging $60 an hour or whatever. So these people are experts in their field, but they have no idea about the different kinds of business models that could actually help them make a better living. And so though they need sort of that education and to reconfigure their programs and services. The third kind of person that I support is what I call the more advanced entrepreneur. This person is also an expert, but they're not a beginner. So they don't want to talk about ideal client, or they don't want to do templates. They need help executing and focusing, because they don't like details. They like to just show up and teach or whatever. So they need someone to kind of create a little bit of structure for them and help them focus and implement.
Perfect. Super clear. Great. Thank you so much. Well, thank you again for your time. Really think people are going to get a lot of value out of this. So, and hopefully we can stay in touch and see whatever happens to you as your path takes you on as well the next few years.
Likewise, I'm so happy to spend this time with you, and it's really been a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kristyn. Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day. Bye.